Facebook, YouTube. How y'all doing out there this evening? It's your boy Joshua from I Stand the LLC here again on Life Skill Thursday. That's what we call it today, Life Skill Thursday. And guess what? We got a great conversation today, a great subject, a great topic that we want to have, and we want to have it so that we can help young people, young adults, and teens who are looking to start their life, curious about financial literacy. We want to have the conversation today, give you some tips, give you some pointers that can help you, your mama, your daddy, your uncle, and your auntie out on this journey as it relates to financial literacy. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit like, please subscribe, share notification bell. If you're watching on Facebook, please hit like, please share. I have some guests with me today. I have one guest with me who is greater than the First Lady of the United States of America. My wife, she is the First Lady of my establishment and all of that good jazz. And this is Cindy Murray. You want to introduce yourself, baby?
You did a great job.
Yeah, I know it. I
don't think
I had to come out with that out the gate.
No, I'm excited to be here with you, babe.
All right. Excited to be here with me, babe. Y'all heard it.
Yeah.
Excited to be with me, babe. You understand what I'm saying? So I have with me two people I met years ago, affiliated with the military, Naisha and Kendrick Burton. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves and just talk to us just briefly about the credentials that they hold. And then we're going to get into the conversation.
Okay. Do you want me to start? So, hey, everybody. I'm Naisha Burton. And thank you for the applause. I'm really excited to be here with you guys tonight. Let's see where I start, because there's so much that I can say about who we are. But right beside me is my husband. I have two little special people that keeps me very busy during the daytime and the nighttime and the evening time, all day long.
Yeah.
All day long. I'm actually a stay-at-home mom. In my spare time, I do a little bit of financial counseling. I've actually been doing financial counseling for, since 2015, but I got certified in 2017. I'm an accredited financial counselor. And just a little bit about my background. I actually used to work for the Army, Department of Defense, Army. And so I help soldiers take care of their personal finances. And it was one of the most fulfilling jobs. I enjoyed it. So I still think about a lot of my clients, and I hope that, some of the jewels that I instilled in their life, that they're still using those tidbits. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'll let my husband introduce himself.
Okay, well, thank you, babe. Kendrick Burton. I'm also, as you stated earlier, affiliated with the military. I actually hit 19 years on tomorrow. Yay. So pretty excited about that. Things have been going pretty well.
What branch?
Oh, Air Force, of course. U.S. Air Force.
Nothing but the best.
The best Air Force. The best branch out there. So, but no, it's been a journey. And so while I am not certified like my wife, our journey is pretty special. So we started our marriage fairly young. We were old enough to know the do's and don'ts of certain things. But when we joined, we had about $85,000 worth of debt. Yeah. And so the first 3 years of our marriage was really trying to figure out how we were going to, kind of do life together, but also how we're going to, get this debt out of our lives. Right. And so we came up with a plan, it was, back and forth, trying to figure out, how we both related to money at the time. But in the end, we were able to knock out all of our debt in in 2.5 years, $85,000 in 2.5 years. Yeah. And so that really kind of sparked really the beginning of our journey with finances. And definitely appreciate what you guys are doing here, because it really is our heart, and the reason why, Naisha became certified, and the reason why I'm pursuing it now is because the things that we've learned, we weren't really taught growing up. And so, what we want to do is kind of provide an opportunity to be able to impart that knowledge to those who will listen as early as possible. Yeah. So again, thank you for this opportunity. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. It's early intervention, right? Education, information, and sharing that. And so that's what this platform is all about, geared towards young adults, getting them the information that they need so that they can thrive and have a successful transition from, adolescent, young adulthood into adulthood. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, that $85,000 of debt being cleared is just like something to really celebrate, and you have people who have credentials behind their name, but they hadn't really done a lot of work, right? So to be able to talk to somebody who has credentials behind their name, but also has cleared $85,000 for that, you got my attention. Now, if you just had the credentials and hadn't cleared $85,000, I would still listen to you. But for you to tell me that, give me what it is that you know, so I can clear $85,000.
Yes.
Our first question to you, to both of you, and to Cindy as well, however you want to contribute.
Yeah. For
the young person that is watching or will tune in, the mother that is watching that will tune in, the young person that has their first job. All right, as their first job, they have no idea about anything. All they know is that they want to be successful. Mm-hmm. What would be some things that you would tell them? Now, they make decent money, right? They got a gainful employment. They make decent money, but they have no idea what to do with it. So the first thing that a typical teenager would do is probably just go out and impulse buy and spend it all. So what would you do? What would you tell the young person who has verbalized that they want to be successful, but they have no financial education at all to begin those steps? What would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So first of all, I'll start out with, this is the time to use your resources. Okay, so there's a ton of information out there about, what does it mean to budget? What does it mean to save? What does it mean to invest? But for that young person, this is your first job. You're looking at your paycheck and you're thinking, what is taxes? What's FICA and all of that stuff? That's where I would kind of start, right? Your gross pay is the same as your net pay, So educating yourself on, what makes up the amount that I'm taking home. Okay, that's the first and foremost thing, because you can only budget, invest, and save what you're taking home, right? And so I feel like that's a very important part, because you're young and you just don't understand these deductions that are coming out of your pay, right? And then after that, I would say, okay, now what are some of my goals? What I really want to do with my money, okay? Am I saving for a specific thing, right? So I'm going to budget it out. I'm going to take care of my necessities first. Then I'm going to take care of not even necessities first. Pay yourself first, right? No, I am a necessity.
Pay myself first.
I'm going to pay myself first. So pay yourself first. Because you worked hard to get that money. And then you start taking care of your necessities and your debts and things of that nature, and then I'll let y'all add on. But I would say definitely this is a time to use your internet resources, get as much free information that you can to teach yourself about personal finances, or call a financial counselor, find someone that does pro bono work in your community. Trust me, they are out there. And if you don't know who they are, I can help you find who they are. And allow them to help you walk through learning about how to deal with your paycheck and how to divvy it out and meet that goal that you want to meet.
So when you say pay yourself first, what does that mean?
So a lot of people use not even a budget formula. It's called the 50-30-20 budget rule. It's a budget rule, okay? And so what that basically means is I take 50% of what I take home, right, after my taxes. And I'm going to put that into my necessities. And then 30% of that I'm going to take and I'm going to use towards things that I may want. And then 20% of that goes to my savings. So that's the part that comes to me. Okay. It's divided up between my savings and then debts, you know. But what I would like to recommend, and, you know, I'm not telling you should do this, but what I would like to recommend, if you can, save as much money as you possibly can to pay yourself. Okay. So if it's 30 or 40% you can put up for yourself, put that up. And then the rest of it, you use it for your necessities, your debts, and then other things that you may want to use it for. But paying yourself first basically means literally I'm taking a certain percentage of my paycheck and I'm going to put it into a savings account, an investment account, you know, whatever you think is necessary to actually help you in the future for what you want to get, you know.
And just to add on to that, I think, and this kind of alludes to what I was going to say to your original question, it's all about a mind. Before you can do all of the technical things, you have to kind of change the way that you even think and relate with money. I know for me growing up, the only financial advice I got was credit cards are evil, avoid credit cards. And that was it, because of the experience that, you know, the folks that I had growing up with me, that they had with debt. And so now my perception of money and finances has changed based off of knowing the resources and really knowing how things work. But when I first came in as a young airman, that was all that I knew. And so I said, okay, cool. I got more money than I'm used to. And I know that I shouldn't be in credit card debt. So there's a lot left for me to try to figure out. And so for me, paying yourself wasn't the first thing on my mind, because I was, if you don't think about paying yourself first, you have bills, you have utilities, you have cell phone bills, you have all of these things. And so the first thing on your mind is, hey, this check that I have now goes out to all of these other people. But if you treat yourself first, because like she said, you are a necessity and you value the fact that, hey, if I don't invest in myself and I don't invest in my future, then nobody else will.
Time out right there. We got to pause. Because when we're putting out this information, it's a lot. That's a nugget right there. So for young people that are watching, right? So for the young person that has not stepped out of the parent house yet, that you're still in your home and you're working, you're gainfully employed. What I hear them saying is seize the opportunity to not only understand the ins and outs of like getting an account and, you know, having this account, this savings account, this checking account, but also understand and have knowledge and information around money, have a right relationship with money. And if you can get the consciousness of paying yourself first and knowing that you have value and you're a necessity just as much as those bills are, if you can get that on the onset of things before you jump out and get cell phone, get in debt with this credit card or that credit card, if you can set that framework up for your life as a teenager and pay yourself and invest in yourself at that rate at 14, 15, 16 years old, I mean, you can amass a great decent amount of money before the time that you turn 30. And so that's really a consciousness shifter and a game changer, is the way you worded that and stated that about, hey, you are valuable as an individual, you are a necessity, and you should pay yourself and reward yourself as well for the hard work that you put into earning that paycheck. So young people, if you're watching, that's a key nugget. Reward yourself, not with the Jordans per se, not with the video games per se, but putting that money in an account that can benefit you, 5, 6, 7 years down the road.
Yeah, that delayed gratification will greatly benefit you, and you'll be far above your peers when it comes to your personal finances. If you start really at 16 or 17 years old, I wish I would have started there,
Yeah, that's really.
To add to that, time, and you kind of alluded to it, time is the greatest asset that you have. A lot of times we think that we have to have this 6-figure job and all of these different things. But, being broke isn't how much you have. It's a mindset. It's what you do with the money that you have. And so what I firmly believe is that it's not about how much you make, it's what you do with what you have. So if you're smart and you use the money that you have well, then you may not have to go out and be the CEO. You can live comfortable. You can take care of everything you need to take care of with your family, and you don't have to spend much of your youth, your best years of your life grinding for a job for somebody else. You can enjoy that. You can enjoy your time and spend your vitality on the things that matter.
Right. That's amazing. So for the young person who may say, hey, why can't I just keep my money under a mattress? Why do I have to take my money to the bank? How does having money in the bank benefit me? And again, you guys, I like the way you broke it up. You gave the fundamentals of it, but also the knowledge aspect. So, me working with young people, a lot of times they fear the bank for whatever reason. It could be cultural. It could be family history that they don't want banks to have their information. It could be a plethora of things. But talk to us about the benefits of having a relationship with a bank.
Yeah. You wanna?
I'll jump on that.
Yeah.
The first thing, right now, the first thing that and let us know if we're talking too much. But the first thing that comes to my mind is inflation. Because if we're looking right now with kind of where we are right now, inflation is at like 9.1%, which is significantly more than it typically is. So basically what that means is if you're not putting your money in the right place, then you're actually, although you're saving, that money that you're saving is actually going to be worth less than in the future. That future money that you have is going to be worth less because the price of everything is going to be going up and inflation is going to be taking over everything. And so I'll just stop there. I'm sure you can answer.
I think it's important when we talk about inflation, what happens to your money that is actually in a bank account, because typically when it is inflation, like you're getting more interest in your bank account, right? Mm-hmm. So is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah. So you want to. So the bank has the ability to be able to give you that interest, right? So it's a difference between we always believed in saving, and saving is good to a point. But you can't save yourself into wealth, which is what you can't save yourself into wealth, right? And so, I can try to, save up $300,000 to buy a house flat out cash, but that's going to take me 30 years to be able to do that. And so the smart thing to do is to use your money in a way that it starts to work for you and not you working for your money and grinding and doing all of these things. So there's a lot of vehicles out there, interest being the number one, and how interest compounds. And that's why time is so important. The younger you are, the more you can invest in those things. You have a lot more time for that money to kind of build up steam. And you end up noticing that, hey, you got more money and you didn't do as much work. And that's what the wealthy people do. They figure out, how can I use my money? How can I use my money to make more money
while I'm asleep?
So
like all of those different things is going to help you, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to be spending all their life working. They just want to go out, get some steaks, have a nice time, have a nice little house or something like that. So how do we take advantage of the system in such a way that we're able to do the most good and build up the most wealth with the money that we have?
Yeah.
So let me say this. I got to break this down in layman's terms for young people. So what I hear you saying is, as a young person, me developing a relationship with the bank can give me access and ways to invest my money, utilize my money wisely, versus just sitting under a mattress. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yep. Yes. And another perspective that I want to look at it from is that when you think about future, right? A bank may want to know in the future, if you're trying to apply for some type of a loan, a car loan, well, what kind of history do you have? with money, So that's the way they can look into your accounts and say, okay, I see that, you have not overdrawn money. And things like that. Like when you're about to get a house, you have that relationship already with that bank that you have your money sitting in. And so just looking at the future in that way. And plus it doesn't cost hardly anything to open up a bank account, what your time.
I will add this, right? Because you never want to undervalue how people feel about the banks, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a reason why people may feel, an uneasiness with the banks. And I have found that typically it's because of kind of how we grew up, and typically not really understanding how the banks work.
Right.
And so that's why information is so important. One thing I was actually just reading in our textbook that so if you have banks and you have credit unions, and if you put your money in those institutional vehicles, your money is actually covered per person, per account, up to $250,000. Right. And so that knowing that kind of takes away some of the uneasiness, right? Because the first thing you're thinking is, hey, I know where my money is. It's right underneath me.
I know it's protected.
Right? I know it's protected.
Yeah.
But who's to say that, once something can happen to your money while you're not there, and a bank is a safer vehicle because it's insured, one, and also that interest in things like that we talked about, allowing your money to make money.
All right, so we know that young people, can be impulsive and the instant gratification, and also like, how does it impact me, right? So you saying that I can go to the bank. But one thing I heard you say, Naisha, that I think would really allow young people to see the importance of a bank is when you talked about, hey, you're going to want a car one day. And guess what? When you go to that car, if you've established a relationship with the bank, what's that?
Popular over here.
Listen, I was in a training earlier today, and these people were bouncing off. They gave me PTSD. I told them, mute your phone. We in training and you popping off and I'm trying to train. I'm sorry, I had a moment. It was a loop.
We got to turn off our notifications.
I'm sorry, I'm the guilty party here.
No, you're all right. I just had to get back. But listen, so when that young person, because I went to the car dealership with young people, to help answer these questions as it relates to that process. And a lot of times when they go in, they are totally unaware and disconnected from what you just talked about, the history. And they end up getting first-time loans with 20%, 30%. Because they don't have that. So young people, if you're watching, everybody want a vehicle. I know you want that Dodge Charger, that Scat Pack. You want that Challenger with that Hemi in it. I know you want it. And if the ladies out there, you want one probably pink with the mufflers blow. Listen, if you want a lower interest rate, you need to establish your credit, and you need to establish a relationship with a bank, so that hopefully when you get ready to purchase your first vehicle, you have enough relationship with your bank that you can go to them and get a line of credit versus having to get one of those predatory lenders from the dealership. So this is that connection for young people when we're talking about this bank. One day you're going to want a vehicle. Every young person does. And so hearing this conversation with that lens, knowing how this can impact you as an individual, is going to be a game changer for you. That's going to be a game changer.
I will also add to that, don't forget about credit unions. Because credit unions can be a little bit more advantageous for young folks as well. You typically, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but typically the interest rates are a little bit better for when you want to get those loans and things like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. Now we kind of talked about what the bank can do for a young person. Why is it important? The different accounts you can get, from checking account to a regular saving account. We hadn't got into the IRAs and stuff yet, but that's okay. Talk to me about the trap that a lot of young people get in, and even adults get in when it comes to credit cards. Answer this question for me. Is having a credit card valuable to a young person? If it is or isn't, why?
Yeah, we kind of was discussing this because a lot of people, again, they have just these thoughts about,
Something happened.
the cars are just bad,
Yeah. The power went out. Where y'all at?
No. No. They did.
Oh, you good? Go ahead. You good. Technical difficulties. This happens, y'all.
But in actuality, especially with things that Kendrick and I have been going through lately, we've been finding out that, credit cards aren't bad. Credit cards actually help you. They can help you. Use the right way, okay? Mm-hmm. Remember that. Use the right way. Can actually help you build positive credit. Yeah. So I think that it's important for a young person to understand, don't just take your first offer, of course, but understand what credit can actually do to help your actual credit report.
Got it. And I know one thing helped me, and Cindy can probably speak to it as well, is when I established a relationship with my bank, I got my first credit card through my bank, and mm-hmm. they gave me a limit that coincided with my relationship with them, right? So they didn't give me $20,000 because they knew I wasn't ready for $20,000 based on my financial relationship. And so I would say to young people, when you establishing that relationship with the banks, like Kendrick said, there are a lot of perks that can come with that. And hopefully you can get all of the financial benefits that you need from that relationship where you are known in the institution. You have history in the institution, and you can even go in and ask those questions to your bank. Like, what can I do to get a credit card? And there's so many avenues that they can talk to you about in the bank. Again, it's the lack of knowledge to where we fear these institutions and we don't leverage them, right? Because we just don't know. Yeah. So I want to encourage every young person, like we having a conversation here, go sit down with a representative in the bank, have you some questions written out, and leverage your relationship with the bank to get what it is that you need from the bank. How did you purchase your first vehicle?
Hey, I'm gonna be right back. We have.
Okay, you got to. Yeah, I know you got kids. Your daddy duty.
All right.
How did you purchase your first vehicle?
So my first vehicle was purchased with cash. I paid cash for my first vehicle. So,
you paid cash for your vehicle? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Very inexpensive, small little Ford Escort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Paid cash.
Look at you. I don't have that testimony.
Yeah, she's a superstar, man.
I don't have that testimony. Now let me ask you this right here. When did you get your first credit card?
When I joined the Air Force.
How did that work?
But my situation was not good. So I think if you have to pay for a credit card, you shouldn't be getting a credit card.
Yeah, what you mean?
So back in 1999, when I joined the Air Force, a company offered me a credit card, and I had to pay for it. It was about maybe $300.
$300 limit on the card?
No, that's how much I had to pay.
Oh my God!
Oh wow!
Yeah. That's predatory.
Yeah. And the interest rate was, I'm sure, over 20%.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I didn't come from a family that, really talked about money, talked about bank accounts, talked about checking accounts. So I was just learning as I went. And I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of overdrafts, paid for credit cards, you name it. So I made a lot of mistakes. But it ended up working for me, as I, got smarter. I found out you shouldn't be paying for credit cards. I found out you shouldn't be having interest rates. If your credit's good, you shouldn't be having interest rates no more over than 10%. And for the people who got good credit, you can even get it down to probably 4 or 5%. Yeah. So, but yeah, I want to go back and comment on how important it is with not only budgeting, like Naisha was talking about, but spending your check on paper first.
Mhm.
So that helped for me because I think if you don't see numbers on paper, especially if you're just starting out, you know, once you're a pro, you can probably go without writing it down on paper and seeing it. But I think when you're first starting out, I think it's great to spend your check on paper because you tend to think that you have more money than you really have when it's on paper. And you start writing down everything on paper. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about oil change. I'm talking about getting your uniforms cleaned. I'm talking about food, getting your hair cut. And you're like, oh gosh, I really don't have that much money left over. So that was something that really helped me out, is spending my whole check on paper and going from there.
Yeah, I love that, what you said, like spending your money on paper. That was the first time I actually heard it like kind of coined in that way. Yeah, that's really important. Like, that's budgeting.
Yeah.
What we preach, you know, budget, because you're right. You think that you have more money to spend, or you may think that you're spending, I'm only spending $30 on a haircut.
Right.
But in actuality, you spend this much, $90 on a haircut. You know what I'm saying? And so that helps out. It helps out with not overdrafting your accounts. It helps out with, you know, understanding exactly what you have and getting to that zero balance, you know, that everything is accounted for at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. We've definitely gave the young people some food to chew on around banking, around, you know, getting loans. You talked about, you know, not fearing the credit card, but definitely being wise with it. You know, if you put some on that credit card, the method is to always pay that back at the end of the month. So do not charge anything that you can't pay off in a month. Yeah. And so understanding that all of these opportunities are building your credit profile. Just like if you look at your natural self in the mirror, you know, you probably want to take care of your skin. You like your hair cut a certain kind of way. You know, you want your weight to be a certain kind of way. You want your appearance to be a certain kind of way when you show up somewhere. That's how you need to look at your credit profile. It is an appearance that shows up for people when you want to get something. Yeah. And we're all going to want to get some at some point in life.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how for young people, that's how we should look at credit profile. Like, how am I showing up and what can I do to build my credit? There we go. Another question. What else can young people do to establish credit? To begin to build credit?
Yes. On the tip of my tongue, I was going to kind of piggyback off of our last conversation, but good. I'm glad you asked this question. So most of the time, credit card companies aren't going to give you a credit card. Nobody's going to really give you any kind of credit if you don't have a history, right? So that's why earlier when Cindy was saying what she said about, you know, having to pay $300, I resonated with that, because I'm like, yes, that really can happen to a young person. So what you want to look at is something called a secured credit card. And what a secured credit card is it's actually attached to your bank account. Okay. So it's your money, but the bank is giving you a credit card to basically test the waters, right? Let's see how you do with this, you know, and then that helps you establish credit where you're able to, you know, maybe apply for another credit card, apply for an auto loan without having the highest interest rate that there possibly can be in this world, you know. So a secured credit card is something that I want to definitely introduce to those young folks that did not know about that, and that's something that you can go to your bank and just ask about it. Can I get a secured credit card? Now you have to have some money in your bank account to get it. But basically you're using your money. That's your money, and you have to make sure you're paying it off each month like you would a regular normal credit card in order to establish good credit.
Okay, so any other avenue that a young person could go in order to establish credit?
Well, young people, for the parents, right? You can actually add your children onto your credit cards. You can add them onto your loans, and that helps them to establish good credit.
Wow, that's
yeah.
That's amazing. And so
that's setting your child up for good success. Now, I will say this: if you're going to do that, then educate them on why you're doing that. Don't just give them good credit, but educate them on why good credit is very important.
Now, we've been talking about, sharing knowledge. So for the young person who will say, what is credit and why is credit? How would you answer that? What is credit? You're talking about credit. What is it and why is it?
Okay, so I would say credit, and I'm thinking of words in the top of my head. Credit shows the creditor, right? So let's say you're trying to get a car. You want to take out a loan at Bank of America. Credit shows the creditor, which would be Bank of America in this case, that you are worthy of them giving you this $30,000 to pay for that vehicle. Okay. It shows it's this credit worthiness, right? So we use we should be able to use this to our advantage. And that's why it's so important to establish good credit history. So that means when you do establish credit, now you're paying your bills on time, okay? And then you're establishing more credit, because that's a part of how creditors see you. They want to know, what kind of history do you have? Okay, you've had a credit card, yeah, we get it, but you've also had an auto loan that you were on time with. So those things matter, right? Because they want to see some type of history. And then there's some other components to, having or establishing really, really good credit. How many accounts do you have open? How many of those accounts are good? How many of them were you delinquent with? Don't ever really want to be delinquent with anything. But if you don't remember anything else, establishing good credit worthiness, one thing that will help you do that is always be on time with your bills. And now, before it was just being on time with your credit card and your auto loan and things in your house mortgage. Now, even being on time with your phone bill, those things help you boost your credit. Being on time with your internet bill. Some of the credit reporting agencies, which by the way, we have 3 of them, but some of them actually take that into account to help boost. They call it a credit boost your credit.
Got it. So we talked about some of the things that, having good credit can get us.
Yes.
A vehicle and things of that nature. For the young person that will say, okay, I hear you. Okay, not a big deal for me. I hear this credit talk, not a big deal for me. What is it that a young person can get denied access to because the lack of credit or having bad credit?
So right now, young people, y'all probably are trying to get into colleges, and for some people, you have to take out student loans. So I love my friend. She's another financial counselor, and she would use this example in our class. But I'm going to use this so that the students can kind of relate to this. So let's look at student loans, right? You have student A and student B. Student A, has established some credit and they've been on time with their bills. So they get a lower interest rate on the same exact loan.
Right.
And then student B, on the other hand, no credit or maybe just bad credit, can get a higher interest rate on that same exact loan. Or let's take a car, for instance, same car, same price, higher loan, lower loan. Why? Because, they were on time with their bills. They have credit worthiness, so getting lower interest rates, even believe it or not, young people, jobs, people actually check your credit now. They want to know what they're getting themselves into. And your personal finances says a lot about a person. It shows your behavior. Like, what are you doing with your money? And so credit, not just creditors, but employers want to know what kind of person am I getting myself into? What kind of person am I hiring? So yeah, it's super important to make sure that you're establishing that good credit and keeping that good credit.
I'm glad you said that. So in the Air Force, that's, for the young people that's thinking about coming into whatever branch of service you want to come into, that has a lot to do with security clearance now.
Yes, absolutely.
We have had people that is late on their bills, or their debt starts to look suspicious. And so people clearances are being taken.
Yeah.
Because the DOD looks at you as maybe a threat that you
Yes.
may take a bribe to pay off your bills and give up some information you shouldn't be giving up. And so for the young people that's looking to come into service, security clearances are very important. We have to have security clearances. And for different jobs, you have to have very high security clearances. And so this is another thing or another incentive to keep your debt down if you want to come into the military.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, so, young people equate it to thinking about, having to take that drug test on the job to get a job.
Yeah.
The background check. We know what background checks are to get a job. Look at your credit profile the same way, right? Is there anything on your credit profile that'll prevent you from getting a job as a cashier, when you're going to be working with money at a bank or at a shopping center or wherever the case may be, a gas station, whatever you choose to work. And also, even with apartment complexes, right? Housing is important. Where you live, right? Certain areas and maybe subsidized housing, they may not go as deep, but when you get to that place to where you're really thriving in life, young person, and you're choosing to want to live out of town or in this particular community, you may have to have your credit ran to prove your worthiness before you may have that. You may have the money.
Yeah, right.
But your credit history, which is another way that you show up for the creditors, may not show the creditors the worthiness to have the things that you want. Starting out right, we're having this conversation today to give young people, give you the opportunity to start off right, right? To make good decisions from the onset, so that you can have a leg up and that you can thrive, that you can know the power of money, have the right relationship with money, and have money work on your behalf and on your benefit.
Yeah, I wanted to just pick off of what you were saying so far as you may really want that apartment complex. I remember being in college and like, man, I hope I get approved because my credit, just thinking in that way. So you want to have that security that, when I do go and apply for, this apartment complex, I'm able to get approved, So I'm glad you actually said that.
Yeah. And so, sometimes young people make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. What would you say to we have a technical difficulties again from the third household.
Yeah.
They brought down the beautiful baby, and babies can do what they want to do in the world. We don't have no beef with babies.
No.
So what would you say to the young person that, maybe has been delinquent, maybe has been late? Like, how would you encourage them? What advice would you give them to turn that situation around and begin to go on a different trajectory, a different path?
So, Joshua, you guys can't see us, but you can hear us, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay. So sorry about that. We're trying to make it work.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me the question again. I'm sorry. Good.
For the young person that has, that didn't know about credit history, that didn't know about their profile, that, this their second cell phone that they got in somebody else's name, because the one they got in their name initially, they didn't pay the bill and they had a loss, right? They made a mistake. How can they recover, and how long would it take to recover, if at all?
Oh, yeah. So that's a really, really good question. So it depends, right, on what creditor we're talking about, because some creditors will allow for you to get back into good standing with them after showing consistent payments, right? Most, though, if something goes to your credit report, it stays on your credit report for a long time, like 7 years. And it's an unfortunate thing. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's just learning about credit. That's what happens when you're just I don't want to say ignorant about it, because that's not a great word, but for lack of a better word, you're just very unaware of. what helping a friend, right, can do to your credit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about 7 years. That's a lot that you're going to go through in 7 years from being a first-time college student plus 7 years. You're talking about maybe I get married within those years and I want to buy a house now.
Yeah.
So it's never just a short-term thing. You got to think long-term. You got to think future.
Yeah. Yeah. Young people, that right there itself is a nugget. I know we live in the now. We think in the now moment.
Yes.
But you know, just like Naisha just said, listen, if you're out there, you know, you're 14 to 17, 18 in your early 20s, you know, think long term when you're making financial decisions, because that decision you make today that can impact your ability to gain access to something 5 years from now. And so, you know, again, we're having this conversation so that we can share knowledge, that we can share information, so that you can be empowered and you can transform your life, and you can help your friends. A wise person told me a long time ago, listen, if a bank won't let somebody borrow money, then who are you to give it to? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, the bank has more money than you, right?
You co-sign, the bank won't give you no money, and you want me to co-sign. The bank telling you and telling me what the problem is. Listen, don't you co-sign nothing.
No.
Don't put your name on none of your friends come to you. This is just my opinion to you, young person. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to help you avoid a pitfall. If your friend come to you talking about, hey, I need you to co-sign on this apartment with me, you need to first of all understand what co-signing is and how you're going to be on the hook. Because in that moment, it may sound good. You may be in your feelings about helping your friend.
You thinking you helping a friend.
All the information. You need to get all the information. So talk to us about co-signing and what that looks like when you put your name on the dotted line to help a friend out.
So I got a story. This is before I knew like really what finances was all about, but I wasn't stupid. So I had a young lady that I went to high school with, and we were okay, like we were cool, but we weren't close like that.
Yeah.
And I think I may have joined the military, and maybe maybe a year into joining the military, she calls me out the blue and was like, hey, I got a job, but my credit is a little flaky.
Here we go with the credit.
So I need you to help me out and co-sign. And I was like, you talking to me? Like, you talking to me? And I was like, I don't know. I gotta pray about that, you know. And she came back and pretty much told me that like her mom wouldn't give her any. Her all of these.
Now when your mama,
absolutely. Your mama love you better than anybody.
Yeah.
If your mama say no, who am I to disagree? You know. So I said, look, you know, I wish you the best, you know, and I don't know where she at right now. Hopefully she good. But yeah. So basically what that would have meant is that I would have pretty much been on the hook for that debt if she would have defaulted, right? So basically co-sign means like, hey, I don't have enough credit worthiness. I like to think of it like this. If I'm in the business of letting people borrow money, whether they are horrible with money or good with money, somebody's going to fall on that spectrum. But if you don't have any history, then I don't know if you're good or bad with money. So it's a risk. And so that's basically, at least, you know, in her case and in my case even, because I had to get my father to co-sign for me because I just didn't have enough credit when I first started out. So some of you may kind of run into that. And so I was just the type of person that, you know, one, I was in the military, so I knew I was getting a constant paycheck. And I was very I wanted my own stuff. I didn't want nobody to co-sign for me. And even more so, when you do co-sign, typically your interest rates are super high. Because again, if I don't know you, if you pay your bills and all that stuff, then I'll give you this money, but it's a risk for me to give you this money. So it's going to cost you a little bit more for me to give this to you. And so it doesn't seem fair at times, but when you're looking at it from the bank perspective, it kind of makes sense until you start to create that rhythm. And once again, that relationship with money to prove that that you're good at paying off your bills and keeping your debt to income ratio at a particular place. That's just kind of how it is. But I think Naisha probably alluded to it earlier, is that there are some things that you can incrementally do that won't put you in a bind. It may take a little bit longer than what you want, but it will help you to not be in debt, to keep you from having super high interest rates, and to get you what you need in the long run. And this is the last thing I'll say before I pass it over to whoever wants to say anything. One of the things as I was younger that I really struggled with was when you talk about instant gratification. If you have a goal and you value that goal, then there are certain things that you're going to put in the way of extravagance and being frivolous. And I like to think of it like basketball players, right? I've been watching all of these videos about how basketball players even spend money. Yeah. And so a lot of them put in time, right? Because they have an end goal. I want to make it to the NBA. I want to make it to the NFL, right? And so when it's time to go play on the playground, I can't do that. I got to make sure I'm in my books to make sure I'm not going to get kicked out of school, lose my scholarship, whatever the case may be. And I got to put in time at the court. Yeah. Like you look at Kobe spent almost all day at the basketball court because he had a goal in mind and he was willing to forego some of those temporary pleasures because I have an end in mind that I want to reach. And if you don't have that as a young person, you got to get that because little small things will pull you away from your goals. And one of the mantras for me that was really important was live like no one else now, so that I can live like no one else later. Yeah. And so basically what that means is it's a difference between looking like you paid and you got a lot of debt, which is essentially how most people live. They look like they're rich, but they paying Peter and Paul and all of this stuff at the end of the day. So you can not look like that for a season, so that when you do get enough money to look like that, then you don't have to worry about the debt, and you can, ball out and buy the J's and do all of the things that you want, and you can feel comfortable knowing that you got it to pay, and it's nothing, we
kind of talked about a little bit of everything for the young person, right? Credit, establishing credit, banking, car loans. We got about 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. Talk to the young person that wants to, that has all that together, that, got the wisdom and knowledge from a family member. They want to invest a little bit. What would be the first thing you would tell them or tip you would give them when it comes to investing, right? Something beyond a typical saving account, maybe want to get in the stock market. What would you tell that young person?
Well, first I would say congratulations, because it takes a while to get to that point, But I would say earlier we kind of talked about compounding interest, just how that's going to benefit you. You start now, boy, you are going to gain so much in the future.
Right. So
the earlier you start, the better it will be for you. I always use this example in my classroom where when I was teaching, a 19-year-old saves and puts in the same exact amount that a 33-year-old will put in. And in 30 years now, this is if the percentage rate of return is 6%.
Right.
But in 30 years, that 19-year-old will have over $1 million, and that 33-year-old will only have maybe around $600,000 or $700,000.
Yeah.
So the earlier you put in money, the better it is for you. Now, where do you start?
Right.
Well, it depends on your goals, right? One, you need to understand that when you invest money, it comes with a cost. Okay. Now, understanding the market, right? It's not a savings account. That means that you're putting your money into something that could potentially gain money or it could potentially lose money, you know. And so just understanding what you're really getting yourself into before you get into it. But there's so many easy ways to invest nowadays. Joshua, I think we talked about yesterday, Acorns, right? Those are some different apps that you can use to, you know, invest your money. I am not promoting Acorns. I'm just saying those are like some apps that people are using, young people are using in order to, you know, invest their money.
Yeah.
And those, looking at different investment companies that are out there, researching those things. Don't go without researching.
Without research,
yes. Do your homework. Do your homework.
And again,
at the end of the day, you want to know what you're putting your money into. Okay, you have IRAs, but you also have Roth IRA and just a traditional IRA. So what are those things? You know, you have mutual funds. But then you also have just, you know, maybe putting your money in the individual stock. Like what does that basically mean? Right. So educating yourself, getting in contact with the financial counselor so that they can educate you on these things. Getting in contact with somebody that's in your family that may know about these things to kind of mentor you through that process. And then if you have a job, that's an easy way to invest. If you can put money into your 401k plan, if you're outside the military, if you're in the military, you're young, you know, starting out with your thrift savings plan, which is basically similar to the 401k plan, because that's your retirement account. I've never heard someone say, man, darn, I'm really tired. I hate that I saved money, but I hear people say a lot, I wish I would have saved and invested more money when I was young. So now is the time to really start.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Another something that we've been kind of talking about, the model we've been talking about a lot today, is a lot of banks have, you know, different entities tied into them, whether it's Merrill Lynch or other investment accounts. So again, young people, when you build that relationship with your bank, right, you can go ask those questions and they can connect you safely, right, to what it is that you need to be connected to on the level that you are on, whatever your risk tolerance is, whatever you're ready for. Your bank can connect you with that, and you having a relationship with your bank, you know, you can feel comfortable with making that leap and making that dive into investing in the stock market or whatever fund account you want to invest in to yield your return.
Yeah. You want.
A couple of things. I know we coming close to time, but I concerning investing, I would suggest, you know, a couple of things. Obviously, knowing information, having doing your research before you just jump off into it. But on the flip side, you know, sometimes we can kind of fall into that, you know, paralysis by analysis, right? And so, you know, you can do too much. You know, sometimes you can do too much research to where you just scared, right? So, you know, get information and then don't be afraid to just do it, especially if you're young, because you have time. And realizing that the market ebbs and flows. It goes up and down, and not to be afraid of that. You know, when people don't know how the market works, then what they'll do is they'll buy high, and then when things get shaky, they'll sell, right? And you don't actually lose money until you sell, right? You lose potential gains. That money that you put in that stock or whatever, those bonds, it has a value. And so that value can go up or down, but your number of shares or whatever that you have doesn't go anywhere until you sell it.
Yeah.
And so just understanding that and, you know, as fearful as the market can be when it's down, realizing that inevitably is going to come back up. And so that's where that information and that knowledge really comes into play.
So with that being said, that's what we're going to close out on. For somebody who wants to get in touch with a certified counselor that you all want, how could they reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me personally through my personal email. Can we put that in the notes, Joshua? Do you want me to basically
I can put it in the notes. What's your email address?
Okay, so it's Naisha.Ford, Ford like the truck, @gmail.com. And then from there, you know, we can make time to talk one-on-one for free, you know, and get some good information. And also with my husband too, like He is just as knowledgeable
Yeah.
as I am, and just a wealth of information there too. So how can they get in contact with you, babe?
Same thing. You can contact me, Kenny.Burton, B-U-R-T-N, and that's Kenny .Burton, BURTON.704 at gmail.com. I may or may not charge a small fee.
He can't charge.
But no, look forward to hearing from y'all. You know, the one thing that I would say about both of us is we truly do have a heart and a passion for this because we've been there. So
yeah, been there, done that, you know, and wanted to really help young people succeed.
Yeah.
I want to see them successful.
Absolutely.
And not make the same mistakes that we all made, right?
Come on. Listen. That's true. Don't do that for yourself. Listen, young people, I hope that you're taking something away from this meeting, this conversation about financial literacy, about understanding credit, how to build your credit, things you can do to build your credit, banking, right? If you have questions, you can get in touch with Naisha, naisha.ford@gmail.com, kenny.burton.704@gmail.com. If you want to ask more questions and take it a step further. Listen, we're going to be back again in the future, bringing you what it is that you need to be empowered and be successful. Because having a good relationship with money, having money itself is a real game changer for you, young person. It will do you so good if you start out on the right foot and do things right up front. We're here so you can learn from our mistakes. Not saying that you're not going to make any, because you are, but hopefully you can learn from the mistakes that we've shared and, you know, give yourself a leg up as it relates to finances. You can change the trajectory of your family. It doesn't matter if everyone in your family hadn't been successful at this money thing. Hey, hopefully by this conversation, you've learned something so that you can turn the tides in your family. Hey, it's Joshua I Standard. We're about to end. We gone. Peace out. We'll chat with you later. Hey, hit the like button, hit the share button, and tell everybody that you want to know about money. Money change things, people. Money change things. Y'all got it. Y'all way out.
Peace. Bye.
No, thanks for the opportunity. Definitely hit us up.
Yeah, hit us up. We're serious about this.